there's a saying. I think it's an Einstein quote. I'm not sure, where he says that take a simple idea and take it seriously. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And I think even when you look at lots and lots of successful people or extremely successful people, right at the pinnacle of their careers, when you break it down, that quote is at the epicenter of how they got there. So usually it's not something earth-shattering. Usually it's something very simple, but they were intense about it, and they were just fanatical about it. And that's usually the fanaticism and intensity around a simple idea that gets you to the promised land, if you will. And so I want to just go through a couple of those kind of very simple ideas. So during World War II, 1941, there's an 11-year-old kid in Omaha, and he checks out a book from the Omaha Public Library. And Arvind, can you put up the cover of that book?
What's the title of the book, Alex?
1,000 Ways to Make $1,000.
Exactly. What a beautiful, corny title. So anyway, this kid in Omaha, also known as Warren, checked out this book from the Omaha Public Library. And the good news for all of you is that you can go on Amazon after the class and order the book. It's still available. It was published in 1936, 5 years before Warren checked it out. And Warren would tell you that this book is fundamental to his billions. In fact, the 11-year-old kid, after he read the book, made a statement that by the time he was 35 years old, he would be a millionaire. And so one thing to understand is the book is not talking about how to become a millionaire. It's just talking about how to make $1,000, and it's $1,000 in 1936 dollars, which my estimate in 2017 is no more than $15,000. I don't think the inflation from then to now is more than 15x. So it's not teaching you. The book is not teaching you how to become a millionaire. But the 11-year-old kid reads the book, is super excited about it, still remembers the title, and basically makes that statement. And actually, when he was 35 years old, which is 1965, he was well beyond $1 million. I think in 1965, my guess is Warren might have been maybe 5 or 7 million by then, which would have been about 40 or 45 million in today's dollars. And so even before he was 11 years old, and I'm gleaning some of this data from some of what Warren has said, and I'm inferring from what he's saying in the book, is that even before he was 11 years old, he had figured out that compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, which is another quote attributed to Einstein. So the 10 or 11-year-old Warren had figured out that compounding was the eighth wonder of the world. And then after he had figured it out, he needed, which I'm going to demonstrate soon to you, but he needed seed capital. So compounding is magical, and it's magical from extremely small slums, but you need a seed to start growing, and growing over a long period of time. So the kid checks out the book. He's looking very, very intensely in the book to figure out, how do I get $1,000? And the reason why the $1,000 is important is because once he has the 1,000, he already knows the math on compounding. He's very smart. Probably at 9 or 10 years old, he'd figured out what I just told you about the eighth wonder of the world. And he just wants to get the $1,000 as quickly as possible, so then he can put it on his compounding engine. And he was lucky in the sense that his dad was a stockbroker, and he used to hang out at his dad's, you know, offices in the brokerage firm with all these kind of handwritten quotes and all that in Omaha, and kind of was all around kind of stocks and, you know, quotes that were wiggling around and all that when he was 11 years old. And in fact, he bought his first stock when he was 11 years old. And Warren likes to say that he was wasting his time until then. He says he had a slow start because he bought his first stock at 11 and was kind of you know, an underachiever till then, if you will. And what he did is that he knew he didn't have the framework completely, but he knew that within these wiggling prices and these kind of you know, gyrating quotes and all that, there was a fortune to be made. And he knew that if he had a little bit of capital, like his $1,000, and he could make investments in stocks, and if those investments, so here's what Warren is saying. He's 11 years old. He's saying, in 24 years, I'm going to take the 1,000 after tax to $1 million. Now, I haven't done the exact number on what the annualized rate is on that. Let me just put it this way. It's much higher than the mandate given to the CIO of the Indians. It's probably north of 30% a year, is my guess. Might even be maybe low 30s, I'd say, probably a year. But it's a significant rate of compounding. So the 11-year-old kid is confident that he's going to compound at some astronomical rate if he can just get the 1,000. And so he goes very intensely, reads the book, really excited about it, and then, you know, he sets up a whole series of businesses. You can read about it in the Snowball, and you can read about it in Lowenstein's biography. But my couple of favorite businesses he set up. One was the Wilson coin-operated company. So let's go into the Wilson coin-operated company since it's such a great business. So first of all, I'll take a step back. Warren was in Washington, D.C. His father was a congressman. He was a teenager. He was in high school, and of course, he was very smart. But you know, he'd already read this book at 11. He knew the name of the game was not to be the best student. The name of the game was to build capital, and to build capital by having different businesses. And since about 6 or 7 years old, he'd done, you know, one business after another. But he became friends with a guy named Don Danley, and Don Danley eventually was a valedictorian of that high school. And I met Don Danley several times in Omaha, and he's unfortunately passed away a few years back, but wonderful guy. And I had so much fun talking to Don about the teenage Warren. It was just a blast to talk to Don about that. Those are a lot of fun times. And Don went on to work on the space program, and he was part of the group that put the man on the moon. And so there was a lot of horsepower deployed to put man on the moon, and Don was one of them. And so anyway, Warren becomes friends with Don. And one day he goes to Don's house, and Don was a tinkerer. I mean, you could take to him some beat up car that doesn't run, and he'd figure out what was wrong with it and he'd make it run. And one day Warren went to his house and he saw that Don was working on this old dilapidated pinball machine, and which didn't work. So Warren asked him what he was doing. He said, "Oh, you know, I bought this pinball machine for like, I don't know, $15 or something, and I think I can fix it." And so Warren's just watching Don Danley at work fixing this pinball machine, and in a few hours, Don Danley had that pinball machine working. So then Warren tells him, "Hey, Don, do you think you can fix up more machines? Can we buy more machines and fix them up?" He says, "Yeah, most of these machines, there's nothing major wrong with them. It's pretty easy to fix. And basically, if they don't work, people just want to, they want to get rid of them. They take up space and stuff." So he says, $15, $20, $30, you can buy a machine that doesn't work. And so Warren sets up a company, and of course, there's no incorporation or anything done, but it's called the Wilson Coin Operated Company. And they invented a fictional character named Mr. Wilson. And what they did, the two of them, the two boys, these 15-year-olds, they would go to barbershops in DC, and they'd go tell the barber, listen, we represent Mr. Wilson. Our boss is Mr. Wilson. Because they knew if they said we're our own bosses, they'd be laughed out of the shop. So they said, look, Mr. Wilson sent us, and we work for Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Wilson has a proposition for you. He wants us to tell you that we're going to give you this pinball machine for free to put into the corner of your barbershop. And we're going to come by once a week, and whatever money is in there, we're going to split it 50-50 with you. And Mr. Wilson told us to tell you that it's a great deal for you, and it's a great deal for Mr. Wilson. So do we have a deal? And so these barbers said, yeah, sure, put it in the corner. Like they said, hey, there's no downside. I got the space, I put the machine. And so they went to barbershop after barbershop, and once they'd get the deal done, then they'd buy a pinball machine. Warren would put Don Danley to work to fix the machine, and then they'd put it in these barbershops. And they had 30 of these machines in different barbershops. And then Warren said we'd go once a week and open up the machine and pull out the quarters and all the money people had been putting to play pinball while waiting for their haircuts. And he said that the first time he went, the first machine had $5 in it. And so they gave $2.50 to the barber, and they kept $2.50. And Warren at that point thought he died and went to heaven. Because he, I don't know what Arvind's been teaching you about return on capital, but if you invest $25 and every week you're getting back $2.50, the return on capital, let me just put it to you this way, it is higher than almost any American business. One of the highest return businesses you could ever be in. And of course, the kid from Omaha who's a whiz at math, loved this. And then, he's thinking, okay, $2.50 from this machine is $10 a month from this machine. It's $120 a year, and I got 25 of these. Okay, I got almost $3,000 coming to me, and yeah, my buddy Don Danley is getting half. That's okay, I like him, but I'm still kind of cleaning up because I didn't have anything to do with it. I just went and did my deals, right? And then Warren also noticed that Don Danley was really good at fixing cars, so he found this ad for this Rolls-Royce, which didn't work, didn't move, available for sale for $200. And he asked Don, hey Don, do you think you can fix this car? Of course, this is a guy who put people on the moon in the future. Of course he can fix the Rolls-Royce. And Don said, oh yeah, sure, I can fix it, no problem. So they bought the Rolls-Royce for $200. I think they put another $200 of parts into it to get it, spiffed up and working. And then they started renting it on the weekends for weddings at $100 a weekend, And of course, again, return on capital through the roof. But that wasn't it. Monday through Friday, they drove to school in the Rolls, So these two kids would roll into Washington High, whatever the name of that school was, in the Rolls-Royce. Warren had a fur coat at the time, so he'd come out with his fur coat in his Rolls with Danley next to him. And anyway, so you can see that the kid from Omaha at 11 years figured out that he needed $1,000, and then by 16 or 17, he's pulling down a few thousand a year. And I think when he was 17 or something, is when he graduated high school really early, 16 or 17. He had about 9,000 saved up, and then of course he insisted with his dad that he was going to pay his own way through college. The tuition then was slightly less than BC charges now, and basically he went through college, and he told his dad, give your money to my sisters. I don't need it. I'm on my compounding engine. I got my base capital. And so the reason why Warren is a billionaire today, many times over, is not because he came up with something innovative or anything esoteric. I mean, the Google guys came up with something innovative. The iPhone is amazing. There are lots of businesses which are around some whiz bang technology and some very smart people doing some very smart things. But that is not how Warren made it. Warren made it on very commonly known facts and very commonly known mathematics. The difference was from the age of 11 till now at 87, he's intensely obsessive about it. And he's been obsessive about compounding for his own whole life. And of course, what he was missing at 11, he said, he screwed around with technical analysis, a whole bunch of different ways of trying to figure out how to predict what stocks would do well in the future, because he knew that he had to get kind of high rates of return. But he was basically in the wilderness until he came across Ben Graham and went to Columbia, and then he got the framework. And then of course once he had the framework of value investing, then he was off to the races, because he had his base capital and he'd figured out how to compound at high rates, and he went off and did his thing. And so the important thing was that there are two ways you can kind of, I would say, ingest our interaction today. You might go back home or think about it tomorrow, and you might say, oh yeah, rule of 72, yeah, compounding, yeah, eighth wonder, yeah, it was a good talk. That's one way to ingest the data. The second way to ingest the data is to do a 180, which is to become like the 11-year-old kid in Omaha and become fanatical about it. Where you say, listen, compounding is very critical.